Yes, so you're all here as a result of a project, basically, that we call LiveX. And our project runs between 2024 to 2027, so that's the timeline for us. LiveX simply means exchange and cooperation for a living earth. It's going to be moving the slides. Yes, so to help you understand what we do in LiveX. So it's an Erasmus Plus funded project through the European Union Commission. Through the European Commission, part of the European Union, and it's led by the ICYE, which is Intercultural Youth Exchange Organization, and CCIVS as coordinating partners, and also 8 other partners across Sub-Saharan Africa. And you can see I've also tried to attach their logos based on where you are. Then those are our partners across the globe. And the project focuses on youth empowerment, digital inclusion, as much as also training on digital skills and advocacy. And we tackle a triple planetary crisis. That's climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. And you can take time to also check the logos there because they represent all the partners that are part of this amazing project. And as I said, we run all the way until 2027, and you can already tell now it's 2025, somewhere towards the last quarter of the year. But one of our key pathways, or our pathway in attaining what we are doing with the project, is that we want to see that we have equipped youth with digital skills and advocacy skills so that they are able to advocate for climate and social justice. But that also means that, once they have the necessary skills and tools, then we can utilize and tap into the mentorship that we provide in the project through virtual exchanges to also facilitate that process that, they're well equipped now, but then they have mentorship to support that process. But also you would see the project involve youth from a number of countries across region too, and regions even as far as Europe. So this also caters for what we can say it's an intercultural collaboration, and as the interactions go and continues, we also cater for the colonial perspectives where youth are able to have these conversations, and it really helps them in their understanding and the same. Apart from that, also throughout, we try as much to develop resources. So this includes toolkits, handbooks for quality standards, but also for ensuring sustainability. So that's when you look or want to see how we are able to support this project. This is our pathways. This is what we do across the countries. But just to help you have a clear and good picture of what the exchanges are actually like. So every exchange cycle, we have one kickoff meeting for everyone, which happens at the start of batch exchanges. And then because we are going to do this 4 times, this is the 2nd time, so we are into the 2nd cohort, and we have already done our kickoff event. But I did talk about mentorship and how that works. So each exchange cycle, we provide a mentorship program, or we provide mentorship for young people who have been recruited for that specific exchange cycle. And so far, for instance, with the previous cycles, we trained at least 16 youth workers as mentors, and we have at least 2 from all the 8 African partners. And then 2 handbooks were developed to support virtual exchanges and guide now the youth and also the mentors. on how to navigate the earth advocacy actions and areas of climate justice. So you'd find a lot of like course materials there that gives you important information on what to do to become an effective earth advocate in that area. But we also developed for our partners and anyone really who is involved in supporting the young people, a good practice map. And there we share a number of models and success stories to how organizations can best now support the young people on the ground. But during
Hello,
each exchange cycle,
Nicola.
yes,
Sorry, your slide is not moving. It's still on page 1.
still on page 1.
Yeah.
Let me see. Sharing. Sorry, let me see if I can share again. Are you able to see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe I take you a little bit. So this is what I was talking about in terms of like our pathways. You know, I talked about equipping you, and then mentorship part, and then the support in terms of like providing for cultural collaboration, and then developing skills. And now I was talking about I was zooming in into what we do in each exchange cycle. And yeah, we do the kickoffs at the very start, and then the mentorship kicks in here. And then afterwards, now the youth at this point are equipped to actually form action teams. And we encourage them to be in groups, maybe 4 to 10 people. So for some of the people that are here, they might already be part of these groups if they're recruited under the current exchange cycle. But otherwise, there are going to be a few more opportunities for you to do. And you can reach in partner countries if you're in any of the 8 sub-Saharan African countries. But we already have youth also engaging in taking actions for the second cohort from as far as Lesotho, which primarily we're not even part of the local partners we have in Africa. But if I look back, even in the previous cycle, we have had like around 520 mentees being engaged to conduct a number of action and taking initiatives locally. And they design their own projects, somewhere online, somewhere physical projects that they could do and implement on a local level. And they addressed more or less awareness on climate change, mitigation, and other things too. You know, to tackle things like colonialism and you know, just trying to decolonize the way we implement solutions on the past. So what it looks like for people who are here also part of the second cohort is that after the submission of your proposals, they're usually being reviewed, and we did this also in the first cohort. They get reviewed and perhaps have a chance to win a mini support grant, which amounts to around 200 euros to implement the project. But we also would see these projects interact with other projects of similar nature from other countries or regions. Basically, through our interactions online, we are able to cater for that exchange. Yeah, as a result, you see a lot of bridges being built between African-led initiatives and some other global advocacy networks or initiatives as well. So that's what batch exchanges looks like for those of you who have never, like maybe perhaps came across or took part in the first one. Yeah, so in a nutshell, we conduct 4 rounds of earth advocacy batch exchanges, and then followed by online advocacy actions or local community actions. And these are like projects that people conduct. So these are your own projects. We also support them in most ways we can. But also virtual dialogues, so like this one, to share At the end of like also each round, we have a big meeting, which we call virtual dialogues. But we also have the online dialogues, which support these areas of like online advocacy. So yeah, we did one in June, then we will do one in December, actually November 2025, and then another one in June and also November 2026. And maybe to summarize that, this is what the timeline looks like. We started in 2024, but obviously those were like inception stages where we had a number of other things we wanted to establish, like the handbooks and the toolkits and the manual, really laying the foundations of our work. But then if you look closely, you'll see now we're heading towards the midway of the project. And that's where you see the second part exchange happening. And it started in July, so we're in September. There are a lot of like actions happening, and it's quite exciting for us. But then we'll go all the way through to 2027. But that's what the timeline looks like. Yeah, you might ask yourself, okay, so what are we already seeing? And to be honest, a lot of young people, around 80%, are already reporting an improved advocacy skills and cross-border collaboration, where they're able to translate things that are happening locally to a bigger scale on at large, what that means on a global level, continental level. But we're also seeing a lot of youth-led local actions to address climate justice and community resilience. You can see some photos there, really young people being energetic, both on the ground and online, engaging in these platforms, especially online platforms. But also we see through the skills that are being acquired here, a lot of people are saying, our employability has increased, right? Our capacity of being able to get employed or employ ourselves as a result of like having some capacity around the digital area is really helping, because of course we do also support some skills here and there so that young people are equipped to also take part on these discussions, but also taking actions locally. And some of these actions means money for them, because it's a business idea. They're solving a number of problems that can potentially improve their income. We're also seeing strong partnership across both Africa and European organizations. We are forming and forging really strong partnerships both within the continent and outside the continent to widen the opportunities sector. But just briefly, I also wanted to point you to what the project team, like the global project team is. And I myself, I manage the project, so that's my capacity as a project manager. So if you have feedback or want to report something around whistleblowing and some other incidents on a larger scale, of course, you can always reach out to me. We also have Julieta here, who is for communication. Actually, I think she's not here today, but just so you also know, she manage and do a lot of our admin and finance parts. And then, of course, I wanted to also say for you all the partners, we have CCIVS and ICD coordinating partners, but other partners which are also like coordinating partners in country. It's ICO in Kenya, you have today in Mozambique, United Planet or ICO in Tanzania. We have Zimbabwe World Camp Association. We have the South Africa also World Camp Association, SAVWA. You have Astorot from Togo. You have Nigeria from outside Nigeria, and you have Community Forum COFO. So those are the key partners. Otherwise, I would say thank you. If you have any questions, you can leave them on the chat, and then I'll try and see if I can help you with that. Otherwise, thank you very much, and I will hand it over back to you.
Thank you so much, Klaus. For more information about the project, I'll put a link also in the chat for you guys to read and follow up if you've got any questions. Klaus is our program manager and is available anytime. for any questions and clarifications. So next on the platform is going to be Yashila Govender. She's a technical officer and a strategic lead for Greenworks at Seriti Institute, where she drives youth empowerment, climate resistance, and community-led environmental initiatives. With deep expertise in citizen science and project design, she transforms complex data into accessible, actionable insights. Her work bridges grassroots engagement with strategic impact, scaling advocacy, climate literacy, and circular economy solutions. Without any further ado, I would like to welcome Lashila to the platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Enoch, and thank you, Nicholas, for taking us through that presentation. And yeah, I'm really honored to be here and to share and learn from everyone in this platform. Yeah, so just leading on from what Enoch has said, and then I will share my screen for a little presentation I've prepared. We really focus on, well, here at Sariti, we really focus on how we take climate information and break it down into something that's a little bit accessible and something that can be practical within our different communities. And as everyone knows, our environments are very vast and different, and which means that we all face very different environmental issues, and with that, we have very different environmental solutions. So, as part of Greenworks, we assist our two programs within Sariti, which is NYS, the National Youth Service Program, and the Social Employment Fund, whereby we look at providing these greening initiatives or greening information around all these different types of environmental issues. So climate change was our big main one, because we believe that everything kind of stems from this issue, and we need to learn how to understand that first before we can see this overlap between climate change and all these other different environmental issues. Oh, okay. Thank you for sharing my presentation. Cool. Yeah, so then this is just who we are. And yeah, like for our first for this knowledge sharing session, I would just like to share something that we've done recently with some of our partners, some of our participants as well. It was around creating awareness around climate change adaptation and just really understanding what it is. Next slide, please. So here we spoke about the difference between weather and climate, and like obviously people call it and recognize climate change in very different ways. Some people may not necessarily term it as this, but they understand these changes within our weather patterns and regionality. So here we spoke about like weather is something that happens short term. So something we spoke about and something that came up very often here when we were doing our trainings is that specific parts in South Africa that you see that you experience 4 seasons in a day, and that's something that's like short term, and that's your weather. Whereas your climate is something that is a little bit what do you call it? It's your average weather in a place that has predictable patterns. So here we spoke about like within a specific community or a specific area, we see that these are climate patterns that are always visible during that set of time kind of thing. So like if we look at winter, we see that those are the usual weather patterns. So leading from this, we spoke about climate change, whereby climate change is a long-term shift in average weather patterns. And that was something that was recognized by a lot of our community, and they've understood that, okay, in terms of our long-term shifts in average temperature, we see, or average weather, we see that, something that was experienced in a winter 5 years ago is not necessarily something that's experienced now. And we found this quite interesting because we see that, well, we hope as well that from these trainings, we encourage people to engage more with the environments and also to think of more solutions around these different environments. So in terms of mitigating and so on. So here we spoke about the different ways climate change is faced. So through your hotter temperatures, through water shortages, and through extreme weather patterns. So within Sariti, we have different thematic areas. One that focuses on agriculture and one that focuses on the ECD centers. So when we speak about climate change, it was very interesting to see that within these two programs that there's this understanding of how these different environmental conditions affect both these thematic areas. So obviously, in terms of agriculture, we see that planting times have shifted, certain crops are no longer viable. And in terms of your ECD centers, like you would see, well, one thing we know is that children have a higher body temperature kind of thing. And because of these extreme heat patterns and extreme weather patterns, we see that it affects them much worse kind of thing. So yeah, we also spoke about how climate change affects South Africa, and we are positioned in such a way whereby I think it was an IPCC report that was released, and it was another author that kind of spoke about it as well, whereby we would feel the effects 2 times over because of the way we are situated within the continent, whereby Southern Africa is affected much more because of the warming in the interior of Southern Africa. And here we see that we have been having a spike in terms of our natural disasters and people affected by this. And here we kind of spoke about, we broke down the climate sciences around climate change, and we spoke about why climate change is happening. So it's obviously driven by our different greenhouse gases. So really breaking this down for our community to understand that certain actions have an effect. So coal burning, or like we are really powered by coal, which is something that's well known. Our energy source really comes from that, but also we emit a lot of these greenhouse gases because of burning of coal. So people were also speaking about how there's an overlap between burning of coal and burning all these different greenhouse gases, coupled with different health effects. So just a little bit of a tangent is that currently we're working on a project where we are looking at air pollution and air pollution awareness in the city of Johannesburg. And like it's very interesting to see that these there's like synergies of understanding in terms of climate change and air pollution and how these things lead on from each other. So yeah, here we spoke about these greenhouse gases and the different sources of them, where we spoke about coal, agriculture being a double-edged sword in the sense of, yes, it removes carbon from our atmosphere, but also we see that, it coupled with inorganic fertilizers and pesticides and just the conventional way of agriculture and not something that's regenerative or traditional, it would lead to all these emissions, these greenhouse gas emissions. We can go on to the next slide.
Did you want me to play the video?
No, it's all good. It was just a spinning earth with it burning, so it's all okay. It's just a
Okay.
visual. Yeah, it's okay. Thank you.
I should have played
Oh, if you can get
what-
it, there we go. Like it just looks really, well, it's scary, but it looks really cool.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't get to this, but yeah, I mean, I would say certain summers do feel that way. Um, Okay. So, okay, I saw a comment here, so I'm gonna just slow down a little bit more. So here when we were speaking to our participants and our partners, we were speaking about the greenhouse gas effect, right? And what this means. So in a normal effect, we understand that the sun's rays would hit the earth and it would reflect back out. So it would just warm the earth to support life, and then that's kind of like what a normal greenhouse gas effect looks like. Whereas when due to us burning so much of these greenhouse gases or like letting out so much of these greenhouse gases, it affects our ozone layer to a point where we trap heat in. So it doesn't, so normally when it reflects out, these solar rays would be trapped in. So, like those are the things that were kind of explained, and we spoke about all these different gases that affect or increase the temperature. And then, yeah, we spoke about all these things. We spoke about how carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and fluorinated gases are the main greenhouse gases. And, something we know is that from these four gases, there's some that have, different warming potentials, sorry, I'm just gonna. Whoops, sorry, guys, I'm just being chased from this office. 2 seconds. Okay, sorry. Yes, so like we know that there's different warming potentials within within these different gases, and we know that carbon dioxide is like one of the worst, which leads to the more we emit this, we realize that the more we emit carbon dioxide, the stronger chance of our planet warming up a little bit more. Yeah, so we can move on to the next slide. So, okay, as I spoke about before, we also spoke about the different activities that drive greenhouse gases. So, burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, and agriculture. These are, these are like our main sources of greenhouse gases and the emissions. Then we have the impact of climate change. And we know, it affects each of our environments very differently. We see a rise in temperature in some places, we see it being cold in other places, we see hurricanes, droughts, floods, more increase of different diseases that we as humans experience, but we also see different diseases in terms of our pests, in terms of our animals, but also in terms of our agriculture. So really understanding that, it affects us very differently, and obviously it has very different effects. And, it was, we saw that a lot of our participants and our partners understood that there's a need to address it. And for us specifically at Sariti, we say that the first way of doing it is through awareness. So from these, we were able to say that we want to roll out this as an advocacy or awareness campaign, whereby within our communities, we make these examples of how it affects us, but also how we can look to understanding it and maybe what it is we can do. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we spoke about mitigation versus adaptation and what each of these mean. So mitigation in the sense of us mitigating these greenhouse gases effects and like looking to slow down global warming, whereas adaptation looks at adjusting, like how we can adjust to these impacts of climate change that have happened or we do anticipate. So not really changing the system, but adapting to it. And here we spoke about climate smart solutions. So how is it climate change affects us and how we can look to find better solutions as to, to either adapt or mitigate this. So within our communities, we saw that people really rely on or we're looking towards different water solutions, agricultural solutions, how we can recycle better, integrating different community gardens, and also looking at reducing our energy expenditure or our energy use. Because as we know, within a South African context, a lot of our greenhouse gases come from, or a majority of our greenhouse gases come from coal burning and so on. So specifically for us, something that came out very strongly is sustainable agriculture practices. So a lot of the communities we work with have some kind of background within agriculture or are very much related to agriculture. And we see that, these are like the three things we've been trying to promote within Seriti as well. So that's organic farming. So looking at natural methods of controlling pests and, looking at planting different types of species to control this. So something that came up quite often was planting of onions and chilies to control these different types of pests, looking at crop rotations to ensure that our soil stays with all these different nutrients, looking at integrating these different nitrogen fixing legumes and so on. And then agroforestry is something we are trying to also kick off a little bit more strongly, whereby we look at integrating trees and traditional plants into our agricultural landscapes. And conservation tillage, which just means reducing how much we turn the soil, because the more you turn the soil, it reduces, or it rather leads to erosion, and it doesn't really control or protect your soil structure. So looking at those types of methods. Then another thing we're also focusing on is looking at the circular economy and waste management. So this in itself is a two-tier story kind of thing, where we're looking at recyclable materials, like your papers, your plastics, and like your cardboard, glass, and all these things. But we're also looking at recycling organic waste. So here, this would look at separating those materials from each other, and also looking into composting. So creating composting material, and also bettering our soil structures and our reliance on these inorganic fertilizers and pesticides and so on. So trying to make this practical in a way where our community members are able to identify with this and look at the problems that really affect them on the ground, and find ways to interact and look for these climate smart solutions. So that's where we are currently at. And thank you for listening to me. And yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Yashila. And also, if you got any questions, can have 5 minutes question and answer for Yashila. But Yashila is with the Seriti Institute. I'm just going to post the website for Seriti. We are partner also with SAVWA, where we're working with Seriti Institute with participants that are also in the Zoom call, that are part of Seriti program of Greenworks. And we actually implementing some of the things that Yashila has been saying. So if you've got any questions or concerns or anything, feel free to ask. I open the platform to everybody. If you've got a question, you can feel free to ask and open your mic. Thank you. You can also feel free to write your questions in the chat if you are shy to say anything. But I seem to not see any questions or any hands up.
Mm.
Yes, Kerubu, go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Yashila, what do you think about the greenhouses that we put? It's sort of like we are trying to produce more food to produce more food for people, but it is the negative aspect of the greenhouse effect. Is their impact as high as I imagine? I mean, being that it's producing the greenhouse gases, or the greenhouses we have for our local consumption, or even for the flower industry or any vegetable industry, the way we have a lot of greenhouses in some areas. Does it have an impact?
Thank you, Kiribu. So with regards to your greenhouses, not oh, okay, I've been asked to share my video. Okay, let me just do that. Yeah, no, so like from a greenhouse gas perspective, like it's in terms of your unsustainable agriculture that would contribute your hiring of your greenhouse gases or your greenhouse gas emissions. So it's those unsustainable practices. But if we had to look at your greenhouse itself, and in terms of what's being practiced there, then I mean not necessarily. So it all depends on the practice. But from your question, something that's really promoted within Sariti is that we look at upscaling or informing our smallholder farmers. So, obviously, these issues come about when we look at these unsustainable agricultural practices. And then, yeah, like that kind of leads to, like where you would get it from these conventional agricultural practices, whereby we see that, yeah, like, we unable to produce food that is as sustainable for us. So, yeah, I hope that answers.
There are a few more other questions actually on the chat, if you're able to see. But one was from Daria, and Daria says, "Hello, sorry if I'll be out of the notes. I would like to understand more on linkage on how to reduce, or linkage on reduce in breast milk quality on climate change." And then Alid is asking about whether eating locally reduces the impact of climate change. I
Okay,
think
great.
those are the only two.
No, okay. Thank you so much for these questions. So, in terms of the linkage between reduction of breast milk quality and climate change, so one thing we know is that climate change obviously affects everyone very differently, and we see that women unfortunately pay the brunt of this. Now, in terms of your, your breast milk quality, it's in relation to, well, two things, right? Like your hormones, and also your diet. So if you are now maybe, or if someone is looking at, agricultural or production that is maybe not kind of, how can I say, it's not really nutrient loaded, that would kind of affect. So it's in link to your diet, and it's in link to your hormones, but in the sense of something that we can control is more around diets. So that's kind of the linkage there. I'd also have to do a little bit more research into that, but I can't exactly tell you what minerals would specifically affect there, but I hope that kind of provides a little bit of clarity around that. So yeah, then does eating locally reduce the impact of climate change? Yes, because yeah, when you support your local farmers and producers, remember, like, okay, if we had to look at either by province, by country, certain foods and fruits and vegetables, or even in some cases, certain types of meat, right? Like those animals are either shipped over to different countries, or different fruits and vegetables are shipped over to different countries. And I'm not sure if anyone's seen, but they were looking at how packaging also leads to climate change. So something that's like produced in okay, I'm going to use the example. Okay, I can't remember the exact example, but I'm going to try my best. I think something that was produced in somewhere in Asia was shipped over to somewhere else in Europe to be packaged, to be shipped to the US or something. And it's just like when you look at this chain where like your fruits and vegetables are traveling from here to here to here, and it's, I mean, in that sense, it does contribute to higher greenhouse gas emissions. So eating local definitely does help. You know, when people were speaking about veganism at one point, that kind of came up to say, well, you know, like certain things are so exotic, and to keep to that diet and to keep to these different levels of protein and so on, you would have to look outside of your locality. But that was later debunked to say that, you know, there's these different lentils that can be locally sourced and produced and so on. So in that kind of context, we see that eating locally really does reduce your impact of climate change. So yeah, I hope that answers.
Thank you so much, Yashila, and thanks everyone for the question and answers. I think I'll move on to the next, which will be taken over by SAVWA and ICYE on food security. So I'll leave the platform now to Mem Kerubu. It's an honor to be with you again. Mem Kerubu, thank you.
Okay, before she starts, I want us to jog our minds a little bit. So we're
Yes.
going to do a quick energizer. Thank you, Yashila, for the interesting presentation. So we are going to spot the difference. I'm going to share my screen. Let me know when you can see it.
Yes, Mercy, we can.
Okay. So in 1 minute, try and spot the differences in the two pictures. There are 10. So you can write in the chat what differences you're noticing. Just 1 minute.
I
You
think
can
for
see
those who
open
are finding,
eyes.
Mercy, for those who are finding that the picture is very little, you can always zoom in
Oh.
and zoom out by pinching your screen or otherwise, and should be able to maneuver. Not you, not from your end, everyone on their own screen.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Yeah.
I can see people trying to draw on the images. Please don't distract the other participants. So we have 30 seconds left. I'm seeing broccoli, pumpkin eyes. Anyone else seeing differences? These are just 3 differences that you're mentioning, but there are 10 in total. Cucumber. The cone smile. Cucumber arms, the tongue. So let's see if any differences you noted were correct. Can you still see my screen? Okay, I'll just zoom in so you can see the solution. Were you right, or how many did you get correctly? Mhm.
Are you able to zoom
Agatha,
in?
you only got 1. Oh, I make it bigger. Okay.
The solution, I think, is on the left, the right hand side.
And now?
Maybe more.
Perfect.
We have someone who got 5. Madam Kuribo got 5. Enoch got 6. Okay. Are you getting more now that you can see the solution? Marjorie got 4. Okay, I think our eyes, our senses are a bit awakened now. So I'll hand over to Madam Kirbo for the next presentation. Oh, I can see some people still writing in the chat. Okay, maybe 1 more minute for you to write.
Yeah. All right. So thank you very much, Yashila and Mercy, for the energizer. Just shows how we can all see different things or not see them. And thanks, Enoch, for introducing us. Now, as Sheila has said, you can see climate change has a lot of effect. And we can ask, how does climate change affect what we eat, how we grow it, and who gets it? These are rhetoric question, but if you want, you can put it in the chat, how you think it affects, what we eat, how we grow it, and who gets it. Because we grow things differently, and we also have it in different places, and it gets to different places in different ways. Some of us don't have roads, so you can't even get the foodstuff away from the farm. It's just right where you are. Okay, so climate change and food security. Sorry. Okay, looks like I'm going to the front. I'm going ahead of myself. All right. Okay, so we have climate change and food security, and this is, let me see. Okay, just a minute. I'm a bit analog. Thank you. This one. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Mercy. That's why it's good for us to have younger, more IT literate people. So climate change really disrupts production. So you find we have reduced agricultural output, which makes the food prices higher or making it more difficult for households to get the food. They cannot afford the nutritious diets because that costs more. Then, of course, we have the elevated CO2. I think Yashila already mentioned that. And this reduces the protein, vitamin, and micronutrient contents of staple foods like what we normally eat, our rice, the maize meal, and so on. So it makes the food less nutritious. And also, it directly affects the food production and sometimes can lead to increased prevalence of pests and diseases. So meaning that makes the food yield even less, leading to food shortage. And of course, we've heard of the droughts all over. They're actually accounting for about 15% of the crop damage. And because of also the abiotic stresses limiting food production in Africa, not just the rice, it actually limits food production because of how it affects the whatever crops that you have planted. Very high heat will impact on the food. When it's very cold, you find your crops have also died because of the cold. They're not used to the cold. I'm sure you've been noticing a lot of very cold periods where you just wonder, where is this cold coming from? We're not in Europe, but you find it's very, very cold, and this affects crops. You find they don't survive, and a lot of them actually just die. They shrivel and die. Then, of course, if we think about it, there's a lot that happens that will now make our food production much, much less. And we need to now think about, what do we do? And if you just look at what's on the screen now, if you close your eyes for 30 seconds, just imagine that very nice food, whatever it is that you enjoy. And like when you are thinking of a special meal that feels safe, it's nourishing, and you're sharing it. You know how nice it is when you're sharing with family. Are you able to experience this every day? We can see it in the chat. If you want, you can just share. Are you one of the lucky people who can have such a meal with your family every day? Or are you like most of the population who just look at this and wish for it, but they cannot have it? Maybe at Christmas you might have it. So we move on to food security, the actual now. Now, food security, you can see their availability, access, utilization, and there's one that is very key, stability. We'll go into a small exercise. Mercy, you're ready? I can stop sharing so you can do the exercise.
Yes.
Okay, so I can stop sharing. It's just an exercise to get you thinking about food and the reality in your space.
Okay, so
They
go
got the mention.
to,
Are you able to put the link on the chat?
yes, I've put the information in the chat. Go to menti.com and then put the code that is there. Then you can answer the question and we'll be able to see on the screen what your
Not
answers are.
there, so I think I'm just going to put it for everyone instead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So guys, you click the link and then you make sure to copy that code and include it.
If you're having any challenges logging in, just write in the chat, then we can see how to assist you. And already see some of you are putting in your answers. What's one food in your community? What's one food your community grows that outsiders often overlook? Okay. You can see a few answers, maybe 30 more seconds for more people to write. I hope that you can see the screen and people's input. Okay, so now we'll go to the second question. If your region had a food anthem, what would the chorus say? Imagine you're representing your food somewhere and you have to perform an anthem about your food. What would be the catchy phrase that makes the chorus? If you're not able to write on the Menti, you can also write in the chat.
It's not showing. Oh, okay.
Is anyone willing to sing one of the tunes? We hear what the anthem would sound like. Okay. The final pop-up question. What's a food ritual or tradition that connects generations in your family? Ndizi nyama, homemade pasta. We'll apologize in advance if this presentation makes you hungry, if you've not had your lunch yet. Pap and okra braai. Fufu, stiff porridge, ugali, fried bean cake with pap. Interesting. 30 seconds. Think some very interesting foods. Water yam, pottage, garnish, fried green bananas, amala yam flour, chapati, sadza nemuriwo. Okay. Thank you. I'll stop sharing now and go back to the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mercy. You can see those grains look very nice. Huh? So what is food security? You can see how it looks there, that market. Huh? Nice, vibrant market, not where there's famine. This market is what we expect a market to look like, where all people at all times have physical and economic access to enough safe, nutritious food to meet their dietary needs and preferences for an active, healthy life. So this is the ideal. When you see like this, you know, this place, there's good food. There's good food. All this looks nice and healthy. But unfortunately, for most of us, we may see this, but maybe we do not have the money to get it. And it becomes a major issue. So if we just do a little statistics, this is for 2025, we have over 282 million across Africa. And that is more than 1 in 5 people in the continent who are suffering from food insecurity. They don't have enough food. In East Africa, we have over 69 million people. This is actually like half the population of the undernourished population of Africa. Then in Southern Africa, we have up to 40% of the people in countries like Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi. You guys are there, you can tell us, who are experiencing food insecurity due to droughts, floods, and economic shock, where you want to buy and you find what you planned to buy food for the whole family for the whole week can only take care of one day. So that is something that we need to think about. And of course, in West Africa, there's like 52 million people who are hungry because of the in-between, between the harvest, between the planting and the harvest, that season, which we call the lean season, people are hungry. They don't have food. Whatever food they harvested from last harvest is not enough to cover until the next harvest. So in 2025, this is at an all-time high. So we really are not in a very good place. And of course, child malnutrition, children are normally the ones who suffer most, especially here in the Horn of Africa, where you find that 30% of the children are undernourished. They don't have enough food. So those are just the statistics now. And some you may find maybe it might even be worse than what is showing here. Now, there are 4 pillars of food security. There's availability. Is there enough food being produced? Or do you have access to import it if you can't produce it in your country? Are you able to import enough from somewhere else where they have excess? Then access. Can people afford that food or physically reach the food they need? For example, here in Kenya, sometimes you find in the western part, like in Kitale, they produce a lot of food. But you find on the eastern part, They don't have food. So we wonder, why are you letting food rot? Why can't you take that food, whatever excess food you have from the West, can you take it to the East so that those people can also eat? So you find the food is there, but they cannot physically reach the food. And some, because they cannot afford, they don't have money to transport that food, they can also not afford. Now, the food that you have, are people able to absorb the nutrients, the utilization through safe, diverse, and healthy diets? Are we able to get it? Or because the food has been kept in a place where pests have taken over, we are not able to get the food in the state that it's supposed to be. Then stability. Is food consistently available and accessible over time, even during crises? Like if we have a famine, have we stored enough so that we have food that covers for the population? In some other countries where they are a bit more careful about food, you find they have food which, even if they don't have food for, they don't have harvest for 2, 3, even up to 10 years, they have stored food well, which can then be released for people to use. You remember how Joseph in the Bible was able to advise Pharaoh, and they were able to store food when other people were hungry. Then they had stored enough food. Now it seems we need a Joseph on our continent, because our food is not always accessible. Even whatever we have, we can't get to the next harvest, as I mentioned earlier. So we really need to think about what we are doing and how we are doing, and how are we storing our food and so on. Okay. Mercy, you'll go into the Mentimeter again. So in your opinion, what is the biggest threat to food security and why? So I'll stop sharing, and Mercy will also allow you to give us some feedback.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
So just go back to the same link and the same code, and whatever you put in as your answer will be shown on the screen. If you're not able to go to Menti, you can also write in the chat. I can see a few responses. Patenting of seeds, pesticides, Cargill, Monsanto, monocrops, exploitative contracts for farmers, growing food for profit, GMOs unable to grow sustainable food, GMOs, poverty due to low household income. There's one in French. Insecurity, best poor storage facilities, banditry. can give one more minute for a few more responses. Waste, knowledge, lack of support of mechanized farming, access to funds and loans. Terrorism and killing of farmers. In the chat, Alit says, the biggest threat to food security is climate change as it destroys crops. Okay, thank you for your input.
Okay, so thank you for all that. So here, I'll just quickly go through the some of this is what you have already put on the Mentimeter. So I'll just go through it quickly. The causes of food security, we have the climate change, which of course has caused the droughts, floods, and unpredictable weather. What happened? Then we have conflict and instability. You can imagine where there's war. Can people go to the farms to produce food? They'll not. So the war-torn regions are usually very, very disrupted by the wars, so that the farmers are not able to produce food for the rest of the community, for the other people. Imagine there's war in the villages, then the people in the city are not going to have any food, and even the people in the village as well are not able to have food. So it disrupts the farming, the markets where they are selling the food, and even how they are distributing, because the roads become dangerous for them to move. Then we have the economic barriers where you don't have enough money because you have poverty, inflation, the high food prices, things that you could afford before. You're looking at it and saying, wow, I can't. I remember when I first started having my children, that was many years ago, 30 plus years, a loaf of bread was 4 shillings. 4 shillings, one loaf. Now we are buying at 60 shillings. And it's smaller. Before it was 500 grams, now it's 400 grams, and it's 60 shillings. And that one was 4 shillings and 10 cents. So that's where we are at. And those are the economic barriers that are causing food insecurity. So you look at the food, you go to the supermarket, but you don't buy everything. You just buy the minimum that you can afford. Then, of course, we have poor infrastructure. As I mentioned earlier, you have food being produced in some areas, but because of the poor infrastructure, they're not able to transport that food to places where they need. There's a place where it's not too far from Nairobi, but you find the cabbages, sometimes they just cut them up and give the cows to eat, because they say there's no point of putting them, trying to transport them to where they can sell, because it's too much. It's too much effort. They'll not get the money, so they'd rather just give it away to their cows. Because we do not have proper roads where you can transport things quickly to get to your customers. And then also the technology, how things are being done. The farmers are not able to access that technology, storage, how you can keep them refrigerated so that they don't get spoiled. They don't have all that. And that actually creates a lot of loss. 30 to 40% of harvests are lost due to poor storage. You've had stories of aflatoxin. You have maize which is stored before it has dried properly, and you find a fungus gets into the maize, and people still want to eat because they don't have other food. You find when they eat it and then they get sick. Or you find now the government comes in and says, no, that maize has aflatoxin, it cannot be sold. Or you find it's been imported from somewhere, and by the time it gets here, it is just full of aflatoxin, which you can now not use, as it's not good. It's not food for good for human consumption. So that is some of the issues that we have in our countries, which we are not, I don't know, we have not thought about it, or we're just complacent. I don't know who we are waiting to come and help us. So we also have the agricultural challenges, where you find, you wait for the rain, because like around here, you just wait for them. You think around mid-March, normally you find people tell, yeah, mid-March is when you should start planting. Huh? So that, because the rain comes from around mid-March towards end of March, and it will go until April, May. So you have enough time to grow your maize, for example. But sometimes, I think last year, you waited for the rain, it didn't come in March, in April. Huh? And you're wondering, okay, what are you going to do? So if you don't plant, of course, there is no harvest. And you plant, maybe just drizzles a little, you already put your seed, and you're not able to get any harvest, because your plants shrivel in between, because it becomes dry, they shrivel, die off, and that's it. That's the end of your harvest. So you've wasted your money buying the seed, and you cannot produce any food to sell later. And that now makes your situation even worse. So we over rely, because also we cannot afford to do like the irrigation, where you can get irrigation systems in place. That requires a lot of money, and you find a lot of people are not able to afford that. So we can think of solutions and interventions. The first one, climate resilient agriculture, where we can either do drought resistant crops, we can do irrigation, so that we are not depending just on the rain that God sends us. We can also stop and see how do we get, so that we have food production throughout the year. We are not waiting, and if we didn't produce enough in the last harvest, we have to wait again until the next harvest, when it finally rains, for us to plant and grow more food. So that is something that we need to think about and start doing, and seeing how can we be producing food without necessarily just waiting for the rain. Then policy and governance, of course, this is the bigger picture, where we need the governments to come in and make sure that farmers are motivated to produce food. You don't have them grow food, and then you're importing food which is cheaper, which you are buying for less than what they are producing their food. So we need to encourage and motivate our farmers so that they can grow food. We can also make sure that they are growing the right food, food that gives good nutrition to the community. Then social protection, here we have programs that run where we give children, especially the younger children in pre-unit, preschool and primary, where they have the school feeding programs. This can be subsidized. We can have the government subsidize, so that these children, even if they are not able to get food, proper food in their homes, at least when they come to school, they can get proper food, so that they also grow. Because one of the other problems we've had is having children who have stunted growth, or their brains are not properly developed. And you find it's all because of the different feeding or because of malnutrition. They're not able to grow properly. Then you can have nutrition education where you teach the community about balanced diets. Don't just eat ugali every day. Ugali is a maize meal. For those ones who don't know, is what we eat. I remember when we were young, we'd have ugali and a ripe banana. And that would be a meal. Imagine. Let's just starch. You know, it's not a balanced diet. But we were okay. We'd eat, and if there's no vegetable, it's okay. We just get a banana and eat with ugali, and you've had a meal. Huh? Nowadays, people have been being told no breastfeed. Actually, don't breastfeed. Some of the ladies you find don't want to breastfeed because it might spoil their shapes. Huh? But that is actually the best food for a growing child. When a child is born, the immunity it gets from the breastfeeding. So this is something that can be taught to the community so that people know that it's good to breastfeed. It's not backward. Because I think that's what a lot of people think, that it's backward to be breastfeeding. You should not breastfeed. You've seen how people, even when they're breastfeeding, they're hiding and so on. Or they want to breastfeed for 1 month and stop and start buying milk. The mother's milk is the best. So if we have this nutrition education, then we can have better communities, better educated about how to bring up their young ones and also how to stay healthy themselves. Then the final solution or intervention that we thought about was global partnerships, where you have the UN, NGOs, and private sector stepping in. You see, like the way now what we are doing right now is part of the global partnerships, where we are talking about it and educating people about it so that they know what is happening. And we also try and make a change, because sometimes we imagine it's other people who are going to make the change, but the change starts with us. What are we doing as individuals? And you'll find if we are all trying and we get together, then finally we have enough of a movement to make change and improve our world. So if we can get everybody involved, then slowly we might make a change and our world might be better. We might not burn ourselves. Huh? There's something Sheila was showing, and I was seeing, gosh, that looks so hot, and that might be us in a few years. But we keep praying, not in our lifetime. So if you had unlimited resources to improve food security in your region, what would you do? I'd like to hear from you. Before you have any questions, if you have any questions or you have any comments. Okay. It's very quiet. You can unmute and give a comment. You guys, your food is very secure.
I think for now, Madam Karubu, the guys would like maybe to digest what you have just said to them, and they'll get back to you. I don't know. Yeah. But thank you very much, Madam Karubu. Madam Karubu from ICYE, Kenya. For the next session, I would actually want to invite Nessa Pillay. Nessa is an honors student from WITS University, and currently she's responsible for student branch of the Climate Justice Charter Movement, otherwise known as CJCM. I'm actually going to post the link to the organization. It's actually a grassroots organization that focuses on addressing social injustices that have been made worse because of climate change. Things like access to food, water, transport, and electricity. Nessa has been part of WITS for almost 3 years now. She started working as a social media manager, community gardener, leader, and now she's the chair of the group. She's accomplished so much in a short time and created and re-established their university community gardens, which are holding that are actually holding workshops and community cook-ins, seed swabs, and clothes swabs. So I would like to take this opportunity to welcome her on the platform. If you've got any questions or concerns, we can ask there after. Also with other questions that Madam Karubu, you could have for Madam Karubu. Welcome, Nessa. Thank you.
Okay, hi everybody. Can you guys just give me some thumbs up to indicate that I'm audible? Awesome, thanks. It is. Oh yeah, stop my video. Hey, hi. Yeah, it's wonderful to see so many new names and faces. Some of you I've met in the previous meeting, and some of you I am seeing for the first time today. I am going to zoom into the previous two presentations by sharing the story of our grassroots food sovereignty initiatives here in Johannesburg, South Africa. And yeah, they're essentially catered towards fostering resilience and building community, and also just challenging capitalism through the ability to imagine a better, more sustainable food system. My presentation is going to be a bit shorter, unfortunately, because I do have a research meeting in a little bit, and it is going to be a bit more informal, but I do think that you will find value in it, and I hope that it inspires local actions in your communities as well. Yeah, as Enoch mentioned, my name is Nessa, and I manage a group, climate justice group in my university. And part of my role as chairperson of the group is also managing our community gardens. I focused more on the importance of soil in our community gardens because it's had an especially important role due to them being built on top of parking lots. All of our community gardens at the moment have been previous locations for parking lots, and they've been covered with red construction soil and then very thick, very difficult to get rid of lawn grasses. So as you can imagine, it's not the ideal point you want to start for a community garden. But nonetheless, we've created such a thriving garden. Our soil is so dark and rich, filled with organic matter. It's got fungi, insects, it's everything that you would want to be, and it has been transformative in the building of our food system for our students. I'm going to share some images with you of the recent community garden that we set up just at the beginning of this year. Let me share my screen. Give me a second, please. I'm having some difficulty sharing my screen. Just give me one moment. Okay, can someone just tell me if you can see these photos?
Yes, Nessa.
Awesome, thank you. So our gardens were largely successful, but it's important for me to disclose that before the success, it was a series of failures. When we initially revitalized these gardens, because they had died down during the COVID-19 lockdowns, we went into it with what we thought a garden should look like. And a lot of the students who helped volunteer weren't necessarily gardeners or farmers. They were people who wanted to improve the lives of students around them and decided to dedicate their time to that. The initial starting point for our gardens was very unnatural and outdated, and also very colonial in the way that we saw them. Unfortunately, we've had to stick with a very linear view of a garden to some capacity, because our university expects us to present a certain image to the world. But nonetheless, we've managed to create very diverse systems that are ecologically rich. So as you can see, we have our typical rectangular bed layout structure, some nice, neat straight rows. But although we were able to grow a large amount of food from the initial gardens, the amount of time, effort, and resources that we put into them were very disproportionate to the amount of food we got out. And I think the first thing that we changed strategy with was soil, and recognizing that soil is not just this dead entity, but it is a living community. It's built up of nutrients and minerals, of water and insects and fungi, and soil is able to give life to us and life to plants because it itself is a living being. Yeah, I describe it as a community because it's something that requires nurturing and care and protection. And for us, that started with adding organic matter into our soil. We, over the course of a couple of years, have raised funds to support our food sovereignty hub and initiatives in our gardens. And through that, we were able to import a lot of compost, wood chips, and mulch. You can see in this picture that we started off, well, the soil underneath is very dry red clay, something that vegetables are not accustomed to growing in. But what we did is add compost on top of that soil, add wood chips around for pathways, and then we added straw mulch on top of the existing beds to protect it from the sun. So as you can see, there are some people. This was an agroecology course hosted earlier in the year, and it is made up of a number of activists from across South Africa coming together to implement a new food system. So yes, a lot of hard labor and work, but definitely something fruitful. Yes, this is a picture of us shoveling some compost into beds. But as you can see, we're adding organic matter into the soil to make it more nutrient rich. We were lucky with this garden because we had planted it just before the rainy season had hit, so we didn't have to add any water to our garden for 4 months, not because it was raining for 4 months, but because of the drastic improvement in soil quality. The previous red clay you saw before did not have the capacity to hold water. It essentially, as you can see from the sides of the beds, water is just completely pooling on the top left-hand side. It just has no capacity to like absorb any moisture. And so it's very difficult for plants to get their roots into that soil. Yes, but as you can see, the plants laid out on top of this compost and wood chips are completely fine. They've soaked up a lot of this moisture, and obviously rainwater has a lot of nitrogen as well, so it's very nutrient rich, very it's the ideal conditions for our vegetables and trees and fruit to grow. Yeah, so this was the beginning of the gardens at the start of this year. We've got some lovely pictures of all of our activists working to plant. I have very great memories from these days at the beginning of the year. So yes, we have a diverse range of crops. A lot of them are perennial because we don't want to put a lot of effort into replanting every single year. We want our garden systems to maintain themselves and sustain themselves. And we do that by designing them as if they were a forest, as if they were their own ecosystem. Yes, so these gardens did not need to be watered for 4 months. And that is an incredible feat because as our previous speaker has said, that this rainy season is a very limited thing. And it really hinders us from growing more food if we rely solely on that rainy season. But we can extend our growing capacity by making our soil act as if it were a sponge, holding that water, making sure that we have groundwater accessible to plants, and so we can grow for a longer season. Yes, more pictures of our activists. Very lovely. This is an activist that was for the first time ever planting a tree, planting vegetables. So getting researchers and activists involved in grassroots projects is really important to me because I feel that there needs to be more of a connection between the two sides. So we can understand each other and our capacities and what goes into actually forming these food systems and putting research into practice. As you can see, we've covered up our compost with straw mulch. This is a major factor in retaining moisture in our soils. And this is our team. So this is a picture of the gardens, I want to say 5 or 6 months after we had planted them. I think one watering was done in between, but as you can see, the plants are still healthy, still thriving. Some of the straw mulch has even sprouted in that time. So looking a bit shaggy, but it's productive nonetheless. Yes, so improving our soil health is something that we can really do to drastically improve the amount of food we can grow, and for us, the amount of students and community members we can feed. Taking care of our soil has been such a transformative activity, and it's allowed us to passively grow food where we work and while we study, because the reality of our situation is that we have to earn a living so that we can survive and so that we can eat. This goes for every person. But if a large amount of your income is dedicated to just survival, you can't contribute your skills and your resources and the knowledge that you have to improving society and your own life in different ways. So if we can take the stress off of students and working people by building resilient garden systems, then they may use their resulting income or time towards leading better quality lives and also improving the quality of lives of people around them. It's this top-down, bottom-up approach that we've implemented, and it's worked really well for our students. I think at the end of the day, that's the goal, is to make sure that we can mitigate these complications of climate change, address them at the root, and also ensure that people take off the stress that climate change uses to exacerbate these problems. Yes, this is our food sovereignty hub. I wish I had a video to show you, but it is essentially an area that has been finished in the last couple months, where we will train community members in seed germination, in plant care. We've recently appointed a campus farmer, and this will be the space and the model that we use to share resources with other people. As Enoch said, we have done seed swaps, clothes swaps, it's just generally a site for storing and sharing knowledge. And we hope to continue to expand our project and be able to share our resources with people across SA and hopefully cross-border very soon. Yes, I I so apologize that my presentation is so short, but I must run. Thank you so much for the previous two presentations. They were very informative and very well designed. And I hope I can chat to you all soon again. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave it at that. Also, thank you to Enoch for inviting me onto this presentation.
Thank you, Nessa. Thank you very much. I think we value also your time. I know we've got to run and your effort to actually be with us. And to everybody, I just sent in the link of the organization that Nessa is representing also. For now, I will put it to Dorcas, who's gonna lead the last session. So please don't leave. We're still together until the hour. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Enoch, and thank you, Yashila, Karubu, and Messi, and Nessa for your rich presentations. So now we are going to go into the short insights panel discussion, like just for us to be able to reflect on the topics that were presented and to share our practical insights on our experience. So whatever we have to discuss, we have just to keep it short and brief so that we can have more voices from each and everyone. So the first question, like you can look at the screen. It says, what are practical approaches can smallholder farmers adopt to make agriculture more sustainable? So you can either write your answers as well in the chat, and also you can open your mic and you can raise your hand as well and say something about this. So this will basically help us about all the topics that has been shared and to have a bit of a reflection. Anyone else who wants to share? Feel free to open your mic and also to write it in the chat.
Irrigation.
Okay, I can see from Agatha, she says make use of organic fertilizers and put agroecology services into practice. Thank you, Agatha, for sharing. And also from Alid, thank you, Alid. Small farmers can practice agroecology, protecting the soil, using fewer chemicals and diversifying crops. And from Enoch, yes, educate our children. Thank you guys for sharing. Crop diversity and water conservation, John. Thank you so much. Messi, you can share the next question as well, the following one. Irrigation using bottles for each plant. Karibu, rely to on water harvesting so that every crop counts. Reduce resilience and pesticides by using natural predators, resilient and crop varieties and crop diversification. And the second question says, how can soil management practice directly improve food system in local communities? Since we are talking practical for small farming using sacks for planting yams to work. Thank you, Favor. Subsistence farming, mulching. Thank you guys who are sharing in the chat. And can we move on to the other question again, Messi? What are the biggest challenges to achieving food security in your communities? As much as we address food securities, like what are the challenges that we are facing in our own communities? From Favor, the biggest challenge in Nigeria is banditry raiding of farmlands. From Karubu, high population has reduced available land for farming. Farms are very small. Mukasafu, poverty and unemployment, unpredictable weather patterns from Messi. Nika, demand for food is rising faster than production capacity. GMOs, monocrops, soya crops. Our communities can develop local gardens, share harvests, and support small producers. From Alids, from Ulieta fires, GMO seeds, unstable weather and lack of support of mechanized family, climate change, environmental stress. Thank you guys for sharing. And the next one, Messi as well, the next person. How can community food gardens be scaled up to support both families and schools? Passive participants that tell you it's not achievable. Thank you, Agatha. Erratic. Oh, okay. Erratic rainfall and drought resilience on rain-fed agriculture means that delayed, insufficient, or unpredictable rains lead to crop failure and loss of livestock. Prolonged droughts are being more frequent and severe. Floods and extreme weather. Conversely, intense and short bursts of rain cause flooding, which washes away topsoil, destroys crops, and can lead to outbreaks of disease and degradation, continuous farming and without restoring nutrients. Thank you. Vertical farms using compost for nutrients. Teach students basic gardening as part of school activity. Food gardens can be scaled up by teaching children to practical important farming, raising awareness. Making gardens in the neighborhood open to people, clubs in schools, community groups. Next question, Messi. Community gardens helps providing fresh vegetables, educating children, and strengthening mutual aid in the community. Teach families and school how to process excess harvesting. Example, drying vegetables, making fruit juice. In what ways can nutrition education be integrated into community gardening projects? We all talk about nutrition, like how can we integrate that in our community projects? Workshops, we have school farms, start local. Through community gatherings. Okay, thank you so much, guys, for sharing. So maybe for now, I just want to ask, what are the key lessons from today's presentation that can be applied immediately in our communities? We can share this, from all the presentations that has been shared with us, what are the key lessons that can be applied immediately in our communities? We have a motto of planting crops that are interlinked and have more workshops, learning by doing in the garden, raising awareness, start something. Pay attention to community gardens. Adopt eco-friendly practices like tree planting, waste management, and community gardens. Food security. Thank you, Jeanette. Understanding climate change and its effects. Okay, thank you guys. I'm not gonna take much of your time from this. I think thank you all for sharing your inspiring insights. And yeah, I think like it's clear that we have understood all the sessions, all the presentation that has been done through smart agriculture, tackling climate change, food security challenges, and also promoting community guidance with nutrition. I think with this, we can strengthen the food system together. And yeah, let's carry these lessons forward into the work that we are doing in our communities as we continue. I just want to thank you, and I'll give this back to Enoch. Thank you for sharing your insights.
Thank you very much, Douglas. I just want to ask us everybody to just go and turn on your videos so we can have a group photo to show all your beautiful faces from all around the world. Just turn on your photos, and I'm going to ask Klaus or Messi, please, can we take a photo for all these wonderful people that have taken the time to be with us? Oh, Messi
Yes,
says there's an
yes,
energizer. But I like to have that energizer with all our cameras on, please. Everyone, please. Don't be shy.
let's
We
see.
want to see your faces where you are. Thank you.
Yes, and while I think Mercy is pulling out the energizer,
Yes,
yeah, I wanted to thank everyone that has stayed until this point because, well, it has been quite, quite something in terms of time. We've been
yes,
here for like maybe 2 hours or so. So thank you very
yes.
much all for your commitment and active engagement on the chat as well. This is one of the many dialogues that we're going to have. Yeah, maybe I take this opportunities for some of you who are already on this call to welcome you to the next one, which will happen in October. But we should provide you with information through our social media. You should also be able to get our email if because for most of you, you have subscribed to our newsletter. So send out an email with more information on how to join so that you can also put it on your calendar. Otherwise, thank you very much for sticking around until this time. I'll hand it over to Marcy for this last bit. And maybe Enoch, once we are done, I think, do we have any other presentation? If not, then you can also like wrap up. But yeah, Marcy, welcome. Let's finish stronger, and then we can take pictures after this this one.
Okay, thank
Back
you
to you, Marcy.
everyone for staying to this part. So one last energizer, just to give us a bit of energy, a strong finish. So find 10 differences in this image, similar to the first one that we did. Can give you 2 minutes. And you can write in the chat what differences you're finding.
So should I add the beans and the rice together to I don't know how the rice
While everyone is typing stuff in, I think I will type in the chat the link to some of the resources that we've produced during the first cohort and the second cohort. If you find time, you can go there. There are a lot of resources around advocacy, health advocacy even. There are a lot of resources around how you can start actions on your areas. They're very localized, most of these solutions. But I think a lot of content there will spark your journey to exploring a number of things like decolonizing the way we volunteer, decolonizing the way we come up with solutions on the ground, but also point you to right tools that you can use to have your journey more easier, more digital tools even So yeah, each chapter in some of these tools are part of the toolkit are going to expose you to something new that will really, really, really help your journey. But yeah, I'll hand it back to you, Marcy, because I already see people responding in the chat.
Yes, I can see most of you are naming the same things, the white chickens and the dancing pig. But remember, there are 10 differences. So try and spot as many as you can. Marjorie has found 4.
But not right.
I think I'll wait until we finish the exercise and then share the link again. But guys, for those who have joined this dialogue today, there are so many other dialogues that you can access there. So you can watch them at your own time, but they're recorded on the resource page.
Thank you. So are you ready to see the solution, or should I give you more time?
I think they are really messy.
Messi, can you zoom
So-
into like the part that says solution? I see people trying to zoom in by themselves and they're leaving mark instead. You can use the zoom in function, guys. Can zoom in and zoom out if you tap on your screen. In the middle of your screen should give you those options. So like individuals, like people can zoom in by themselves.
So how many differences did you spot?
People are lighting yellow roosters. I
The
can't even
yellow
see one.
chicken.
Can't even see it.
Because we've zoomed the image. Some improvements on this second round. Oh, Eka found 10. Okay, that's good. Congratulations. 6 differences. 8 differences. Okay, so thank you for your time. And if anyone has any parting comments, the floor is open before we say goodbye.
Yeah, just one last thing. On the page I've shared, if you click there and you have any questions or you want to link up with partners or myself, we have a page with all the contacts. It's titled Who is Who. If you go there, you are able to find contacts of everyone that is part of the project, and based on what you need to ask, you can read through the text and text those. But otherwise, thank you very much. Also, I see there are people here who joined from even when we were not yet ready to present, and they're still here. So those ones, I really commend your dedication to the session today. But yeah, I will leave it back to those who want to say something. Feel free to share anything, really. And just so you know, I know you were told in the beginning, this session was recorded. So if you missed any part or any point and you wanted to revisit this conversation, this dialogue, it will be posted on the same resource page that I've shared. So feel free to visit there and maybe pin it to your favorite toolbars on your device. Back to you, Enoch, and maybe the floor is open to everyone.
Thanks, Klaus. I just have one last request because We didn't take a photo. Please, can we turn on our videos and just take one photo? I would ask Ilyeta or Klaus, please, can you take the photos? You are digital savvy, guys.
We can both do it. I'm going to ask everyone to just then smile and put their best face there. I need to change the view to accommodate more people. Turn off the captioning. Okay, now I have my. All right, your best smile and pose. Good. I'm going to take a few more other pictures, so just stay the way you are. Wonderful.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. I just want to take this opportunity to thank our presenters, Yashila from Charity Institute. I'll also thank Kerubu from ICYE Nigeria. I see Kenya. Sorry, we've got a lot of partners within the consortium, so you do not know who's the. Sorry, Madam Kerubu from ICYE Kenya. I would like to also thank Nessa from the CJM Institute in Johannesburg. I would also want to thank Dorcas from CCIVS, Savoir also, and everybody, Klaus, Julieta, Messi, everybody who's made this possible, this dialogue possible, and also to you, the participants, your active participant and engagement, questions, reflections made this dialogue meaningful and interactive. The energy and commitment you brought forward reaffirms the importance of working together for sustainable change. I believe that the knowledge and the connections gained during this session will continue to spark collaboration and action beyond this space. So together we are building pathways for stronger communities and more sustainable futures. As Klaus had said, we have got more dialogues that are coming up, and feel free to actually go through our website to get the information. We'll be also in contact with our newsletters, and also if you need the presentation also, feel free. You'll be getting the copy of the today's discussion. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful day further. Thank you.
Thank you. And maybe all of us can say goodbye and thank you in our own languages.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
Feel free to unmute your mic, say
Bye.
something in your language.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Hello.